Do you ever go down memory lane and realize, no, this thing I remember badly is exactly as terrible as I thought it was? Well, that's what it's been like rewatching Don Bluth's 1991 animated film Rock-a-Doodle, which is, unfortunately, Bluth's worst film by a landslide. So let's dive in and talk about it, and I almost dare any fans of this movie to be able to defend it in the comments. Hey guys, I'm McGann. You're watching me on the Fangirl, where every so often I go back and watch an old movie that I didn't like to see if my perspective has changed. I mean, it worked when I watched the Mothman Prophecies, so I was really hoping the years would have bettered my palate to other films as well, but then you run into something like Rock-a-Doodle and it shatters everything you've built. If you've never seen it, it's about a rooster named Chanticleer who has a really good voice, and he crows every day to bring up the sun and chase away the rain, except for this one day when he doesn't and the sun comes up anyways, which causes the other farm animals to laugh the rooster away. But really, that was all the secret evil plot of the Grand Duke Owl, who has a lot of magical powers, yet cannot stand the sunlight for some reason, just because owls are nocturnal, I guess. And even though it was just established in the opening that the sun comes out either way, for some reason, by getting rid of the rooster, that makes it to where the Grand Duke Owl can keep the sun away long term for reasons. Meanwhile, a real-life boy named Edmund is watching his farm flood in a storm, so he calls out his window for Chanticleer to come crow the clouds away, which, for no explicable reason, summons the Grand Duke Owl, who is now going to eat Edmund for speaking out. But apparently humans are hard to digest, so the owl turns Edmund into a cartoon cat instead. But for other reasons that will remain unexplained, the rest of the cartoon animals invade Edmund's house and use a flashlight to stun the Grand Duke Owl and keep him at bay. Although that really doesn't matter much anyways, because the flood has become animated and overcome Edmund's house, sweeping the main characters away on Edmund's bed until they float to the big city, where they find Chanticleer, who is now known as the King, and he sings rock music, Elvis style, with a new black hair dye job to further match the other king. And by the way, if you notice me saying Chanticleer's name differently, it's because the movie can't pick a pronunciation either. They go between Chanticleer and Chanticleer, and I don't know what's right. I didn't write this thing. Now, above the stage for the king is the manager's office, whose name is Pinky, and there's this unholy hot animal girl named Goldie Pheasant who thinks she's too good for the chorus and wants a main role. But Pinky doesn't want to give it to her until the Grand Duke Owl calls Pinky to tell him to make sure that he keeps the king in the city because the sun will continue to stay down in the country that way. Yeah, that's definitely for sure how the sun works. It only rises in the city and not the country because the rooster isn't there to crow. Yeah, I'm following along perfectly. But also, if Pinky and the owl are in cahoots already, then why didn't the owl just trick Chanticleer into becoming a star? Why not have Pinky come and scout him and take him away? Why have this whole song and dance with a big fight? The motivations in this movie are so weird. And the only problem with keeping Chanticleer in the city is that he's lonely. So lonely that he's laying on a pillow sucking his thumb. And so Pinky gets Goldie to pretend to fall in love with Chanticleer so that he'll keep singing on camera and she can get her career boost. But Goldie really does fall for Chanticleer and ends up telling him everything and helping him escape back to the farm, where the Grand Duke Owl uses even more extreme magical powers and then turns into a tornado that does exactly 0 damage before Chanticleer finds his crow and turns into a bigger tornado rocket thing. And you know what? I'm already mentally exhausted from trying to explain this, so I give up. But geez, for all of that owl's powers, you think he could have just enchanted his own castle to always be dark? Or shut the windows or something simplistic? Like, I really can't understand where this villain is coming from. Now, I know a lot of you watching this are younglings who did not live in in the ripe old ages of the 90s, but I was there firsthand. I was a pretty young kid in this era, so I think it's a pretty safe assumption that I would have been the target audience for this film when it released. And even when I was a tiny child, this movie just could not hold my interest because it's so random and poorly written. Mind you, Blue's Clues came out 5 years after Rock-a-Doodle, and there were times I would get mesmerized by Blue. You know, back in the days before we had streaming services or recording TV, it was like whatever's on TV is on TV. So you're out in the summer, Blue's Clues is on, that's what you're watching. So this is in no means a high bar that I'm setting for Rock-a-Doodle. But this is to say that no, this movie isn't filled with references and techniques that would have enticed kids back in the 90s. This is a dumpster fire of a film, and MGM must have thought that kids would sit through anything that was colorful. Nothing in this script works or makes sense, and the songs are extremely lackluster. It's like they found a guy and said, make songs. And he's like, okay, what kind of songs? We don't care, just anything that animals can sing. It's also great that the screenwriters decided to make the film relatable to kids by giving characters these easy to pronounce names like Chanticleer and Patou, a dog who wears shoes for the given reason of, I got bunions on my feet. And he also wears his pants backwards, and I just can't with this movie sometimes. But you know, Patou, the names that you hear on the playground every day. The animation also boasts all 3 kinds of women from the 90s. The mom, the ditzy hot girl, and the nerdy girl who has glasses and no one can stand her. How wonderful. It's almost insulting to every level of viewer that Chanticleer and Goldie's relationship is literally just based around, she's purty, with never a genuine conversation to be had, and with Goldie only pursuing the relationship for the sake of boosting her own career, because for some reason, the thought of going home not being a star was repulsive to her. And I'm not gonna lie, if Goldie didn't get this opportunity with Chanticleer, I think she would have become like Pearl, just standing on the stage screaming, "But I'm a star!" Yet, despite having nothing in common other than show business, by the end of the movie, Chanticleer and Goldie are living it up in the country, and Goldie is apparently fine with that because Rooster Man also be purty. They really never talk to each other until Goldie confesses that she was a plant from Pinky. They only sing at each other for like 1 day's worth of the timeline. But that's enough for them to be in love. In this movie, Goldie especially has the depth of a sheet of paper. And it makes me so upset because Don Bluth is usually so thoughtful with his female characters. And maybe the most upsetting part of Rock-a-Doodle is that Don Bluth was one of the writers for this film. And this movie does have a basis, but it's like a 4-verse long poem song thing. And as rumor has it, even Disney had wanted to adapt this movie way back in the earlier days. However, Walt Disney himself supposedly rejected the Chanticleer adaptation in favor of making The Sword in the Stone. I mean, right call and all, but I still wonder if Disney writers would have been able to do the project more justice. Seriously, Bluth and the other screenwriters had so much creative freedom here, and they could have made something interesting, engaging, fun, or at least watchable. But this thing about Elvis the chicken not wanting his 15 minutes of fame, that's all they could come up with? And while I cannot find it in writing anywhere, I assume that there must have been some kind of budget crisis going on. I would think that funding was pulled and maybe that forced big chunks of the script to be cut out of the film to save on animation. And all the heart that could have been in Rock-a-Doodle got scrapped by corporate greed, which is unfortunate because a lot of Don Bluth's films are major classics. But the film version of the script is so bad. Like, even the Grand Duke keeps changing his location so fast that it makes no feasible sense, and it gives you whiplash from trying to keep up. And Edmund keeps calling the animals still left at his flooding house and asking how his parents are, and no one will answer him. We have no idea what happened to his family. Then at the end, Edmund the kitten passes away in battle, but Edmund the boy returns to his live action status, and he wakes up in his normal, not flooded bed with his mom going, "Oh, sweetie, that's all pretend." But then Edmund flies into the cartoon farm and has a dance party with the animals, so what the is going on here? Oh, I give up. I really give up. I want to talk about this movie, but it's so bad. It hurts me. My one plea to anyone watching this is to please not judge Don Bluth's work based on Rock-a-Doodle alone. It is such a bizarre movie that is so extremely poorly done and unfulfilling, which does not compute for me because this is the same guy behind The Secret of Nim, The Land Before Time, An American Tale, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Anastasia, and even Titan AE. All of those films are enjoyable and, at least usually, pretty emotionally intelligent. Sincerely, if you can watch The Land Before Time or All Dogs Go to Heaven and not end up crying, then you need sociopath pills, my friend, because there is something wrong with your emotional state. And knowing the other works of Don Bluth makes Rock-a-Doodle so much more terrible. It's not like a random POS like 2006's Dougal, where it was as bad as it looked, and that company doesn't put out much, if any, other animation because it flopped so hard. But Don Bluth is a master storyteller and animator, and while Rock-a-Doodle had all of the right elements, it just doesn't put the story together to deliver it. So it's not on brand for Bluth's quality of work or care. Since there isn't much information on the production, I don't know if this was a quick cash grab for Bluth because he needed the money, or if the studio was just demanding something on a tight turnaround, or if the movie was defunded, or even if Bluth was just in a hurry to finish Rock-a-Doodle and move on to his next release, which would have either been The Pebble and the Penguin and or Thumbelina at that point. But I think all of us, including Edmund, Chanticleer, and Goldie, deserved a lot better of a movie than what we got. When people get in the comments and tell me, it's just a cartoon, they didn't think that hard about it, typically they're wrong. But then we have pieces like Rock-a-Doodle being the poster child of not caring about the work you put into the world, and I can't say no, everything is thought out with any definity because of this movie. But what do you guys think? If you haven't seen the movie in a while, give it a watch now when you have a more discerning eye, and tell me if the plot, the timeline, or anything else makes sense to you. I might be overthinking it, but it's literally my job. No, that didn't work out right, did it? Oh well. Rock-a-doo. Such a weird movie. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey Megan, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.